NXTSD5 supports remote viewing over Ethernet. This means it's possible to reach out and see what's on any NXTSD5 screen from any other NXTSD5. Before we configure this, let's look at a simple network architecture. An NXF4000 communicates via Modbus RTU with an NXTSD5. This is Boiler 1. Boiler 1's NXTSD5 Ethernet address is 192.168.1.204. Boiler 1 NXTSD5 is connected to an Ethernet switch. Another NXF4000 communicates via Modbus RTU with another NXTSD5. This is Boiler 2. Boiler 2's NXTSD5 Ethernet address is 192.168.1.205. Boiler 2 NXTSD5 is also connected to the Ethernet switch. Remote viewing must be configured on all NXTSD5s, so each can view all the others. This is Boiler 1. Ensure you're logged in with administrator credentials and select the System menu and then select Options, which is identified by a gear icon. Within the Options dialog, use the Page button in the top right corner to change screen until the networking options are visible. At present, there are no remote views configured. Enter into the Remote View Connections dialog, and select the Add button in the top right corner. We're prompted to enter a device name. We're currently using Boiler 1's NXTSD5, so we want to configure a connection to Boiler 2's NXTSD5. Therefore, enter the remote device's name, which is Boiler 2. Next, we must specify Boiler 2's IP address, which is 192.168.1.205. It's possible to add many remote connections. For example, if there were 5 boilers in total, boilers 2 through 5 would be configured on Boiler 1. An NXTSD5 won't allow remote viewing to itself. For example, Boiler 1 cannot remotely connect to itself. Once all the connections have been specified, exit the dialog and return to the overview. We're currently using Boiler 1's NXTSD5. Now that remote viewing has been configured, it will appear in the System menu. Every connection will have a menu item. In this example, only Boiler 2 has been configured. When Boiler 2 is selected, a remote connection is made and Boiler 2's screen is visible on Boiler 1's NXTSD5. Note that the I icon is displayed when an NXTSD5 is being remotely viewed. This tells you when someone is watching. The I icon is visible here because it has appeared on Boiler 2's NXTSD5, which we're remotely viewing. An overlay label is provided, so you know you're viewing a remote NXTSD5. This can be moved, in case it's obscuring something on screen. Use Boiler 2's NXTSD5 as if you were physically interacting with it, navigating and viewing dialogues. When remote viewing is complete, exit using the Close button on the overlay. Note, we're back to the NXTSD5's native display, which is Boiler 1. Let's look at Boiler 2 again. We know someone is remotely viewing because of the I icon is visible. Even though Boiler 2 has been configured to remotely view Boiler 1, the remote viewing option is not visible in the System menu. This is because it's not possible to remote view an NXTSD5 whilst being remotely viewed. However, if we go to Options and review Network Settings, we can confirm that Boiler 1 has been configured for remote viewing from Boiler 2. There's also a remote idle disconnection time parameter. If NXTSD5 is being remotely viewed, it will force a disconnection if the client has had no interaction for this time period. Closing client connections that aren't in use is a good security practice. NXTSD5 can also be used in device-free mode. In this mode, NXTSD5 doesn't have to talk to a device such as NXF4000 and can be used purely for remote viewing. Finally, we must review security settings that impact remote viewing, which can only be accessed with appropriate credentials. Allow remote control allows parameters to be changed by a remote client. Disable this to make NXTSD5 more secure. Allow remote view enables users to remotely view other NXTSD5s.